They didn't just reject humanity. They made sure the entire galaxy watched it happen. And for 12,000 years, no species had ever survived that kind of humiliation. The grand assembly of the conquered glowed like a captured star suspended in darkness. Rings of floating platforms stretched upward into infinity, each occupied by civilizations older than human history itself. Empires that had watched suns die, species that had mastered gravity before Earth discovered fire. And at the very bottom, deliberately placed where everyone could look down, stood the human delegation platform. Small, dimly lit, temporary, a reminder. Humanity did not belong. Ambassador Elena Vasquez felt every gaze before she even spoke. Thousands of alien eyes tracked her movements as if observing an experiment expected to fail. 37 years humanity had waited. 37 years of cooperation, tribute agreements, technology sharing, and political restraint. Every promise from the conquered had sounded the same. Soon, you are progressing well. Full membership requires patience. Today was supposed to end that waiting. Terraforming rights for Mars, a dead rock no empire claimed, no species desired, no strategic value beyond humanity's survival. A symbolic approval, a formality. At least, that's what Earth had been told. High, Arbiter's Thorin rose from his throne high, above the chamber. His form shimmered with bioluminescent authority, towering over the assembly like living law. Silence fell instantly. Even translation drones muted themselves. Humanity, Thorin announced, voice echoing through layered harmonics, has requested sovereign development rights within Sol System territory. Alina allowed herself a small breath of relief. Routine language. Good start. Then the Arbiter continued. Before the vote proceeds, the Council will address a matter of concern. Her stomach tightened. Behind her, Earth's advisors exchanged nervous glances. A new hologram ignited above the chamber. Human ships appeared, recorded patrol footage from years prior. Exploration vessels, rescue missions, civilian transports. Nothing controversial. Until the footage zoomed outward. Lines appeared across the star map. Human trade routes expanding faster than permitted projections. Colonies forming beyond approved zones. Mining stations operating independently. Whispers spread among alien delegates. Alina felt the shift immediately. This wasn't procedure. This was prosecution. The conquered, Thorin said calmly, has determined that humanity demonstrates expansionist tendencies inconsistent with provisional status. Shock hit her like vacuum exposure. Expansionist? Every move humanity made had been approved through council bureaucracy. Every treaty followed. Every restriction obeyed. She stepped forward. High Arbiter, all activities were filed and authorized under authorization, Thorin interrupted, was granted under supervision assumptions. The word echoed. Supervision. Like humanity were children. Laughter rippled faintly through sections of the chamber. Alien tones clicking, hissing, vibrating in amusement. Alina's jaw tightened, but she stayed composed. Diplomacy demanded restraint. What is the Council's ruling? She asked carefully. The Arbiter paused, and the entire galaxy leaned closer. Humanity, he declared, is denied terraforming rights. Murmurs spread instantly, but he wasn't finished. Furthermore, provisional status is extended indefinitely. The chamber erupted in approval signals, not outrage, approval. Humiliation was intentional, public, permanent. Alina felt heat rise behind her eyes, but refused to look down. Earth had sacrificed too much to beg now. She straightened her posture. On what grounds? She asked quietly. The Arbiter's answer came like a blade. Humanity has not yet demonstrated the maturity required for sovereignty. The words struck harder than denial itself. Not unworthy. Not dangerous. Childish. The platform lights dimmed, automatically, ceremonial protocol marking a failed petition. A visual downgrade. Gasps echoed from smaller species watching. Humanity had just been formally diminished. And then, as if cruelty required punctuation, Thorin added, Earth will remain under conquered guidance for its own protection. Laughter spread louder this time. Alina stood frozen, because she suddenly understood something terrifying. This meeting had never been about Mars. It had been staged, a warning to every young civilization, watching what happened to those who grew too quickly. Humanity wasn't denied. Humanity had been made an example. She slowly looked up toward the towering arbiter, and for the first time she smiled. A small smile, barely noticeable, but dangerous, because at that exact moment, deep inside her neural implant, a silent message arrived from Earth Command. Phase 2 authorized. And across human space, something long prepared began to wake. The humiliation ended at sunset. The consequences began before dawn. Alina did not argue. That alone confused the chamber. Most species protested rulings. Some begged. A few threatened sanctions they could never enforce. Humanity did none of those things. She simply inclined her head. Humanity acknowledges the Council's decision. Her calm response triggered scattered amusement across the assembly. To them, submission confirmed their judgment. Young species always learned eventually. Power belonged to the old. But as Alina turned to leave, she added one final sentence, quiet enough to sound polite, loud enough to be recorded forever. Earth will adjust its diplomatic posture accordingly. The phrasing was deliberate, neutral, harmless. Yet, several elder delegates stiffened, because diplomacy in galactic language was another word for restraint. And restraint could be withdrawn. The transmission ended across human space 3 minutes later. On Earth, billions had watched the broadcast live. Silence followed. Not outrage, not panic. Silence. In the United Earth Strategic Assembly, no one shouted. No emergency alarm sounded. Officials simply looked toward the central display, where Alina's humiliation replayed again, and again, and again. Finally, Admiral Renishita spoke. So, he said calmly, they've chosen escalation. The Secretary General nodded once. All treaties classified under provisional compliance are now legally void. One sentence. Decades of diplomacy dissolved instantly. Legal teams had predicted this exact outcome years earlier. Humanity had prepared quietly. Across the solar system, dormant protocols activated. Trade restrictions lifted. Defense limitations erased. Research embargoes terminated. Hidden shipyards powered on beneath asteroid shadows, long ignored by conquered inspectors. Mars orbital platforms, officially scientific stations, unfolded into massive construction arrays. On Luna, mining lasers reconfigured into defense grids, and deep beneath Earth's oceans, sealed facilities transmitted their first signals in 30 years. Humanity had followed every rule, while building a future where those rules no longer mattered. Back at Ethon Prime, the Council dismissed the session with satisfied efficiency. Another ambitious species corrected, order preserved. The Arbiter prepared to move to the next agenda item when a junior analyst interrupted protocol. Hi, Arbiter, human diplomatic channels have gone dark. Thorin barely reacted. A predictable emotional response. But seconds later, more alerts arrived. Human trade convoys changing routes. Embassies closing voluntarily. Data exchanges terminating simultaneously across thousands of networks. Not chaotic, coordinated. The chamber atmosphere shifted subtly. One elder delegate frowned. They are withdrawing. Impossible, another replied. They depend on conquered infrastructure. Yet system reports contradicted them. Human supply chains rerouted internally. Energy outputs rising sharply within Sol territory. And most concerning, human fleets were returning home. Everywhere. Alina boarded her shuttle in silence. Only once the vessel cleared the station did her composure crack slightly. She removed her diplomatic insignia and placed it carefully on the console. Her aide hesitated. Ambassador, are we really ending cooperation? She looked out at the stars. They didn't humiliate us to deny Mars, she said softly. They did it because they were afraid. Afraid of what? Alina's eyes hardened. Of a species that asks permission instead of forgiveness. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace. Moments later, Earth transmitted a single galactic-wide message. No threats, no declarations of war. Just a legal notice translated into every known language. The United Systems of Earth formally withdraw from all provisional agreements effective immediately. Confusion spread first, then concern, because thousands of interstellar systems suddenly realized something uncomfortable. Humanity had been the logistical backbone of countless trade networks. Human engineers maintained infrastructure others relied on. Human mediators resolved disputes quietly for decades. And now, all of it stopped, simultaneously. Within hours, minor disruptions appeared across conquered space. Navigation relays went offline. Supply chains stalled. Medical shipments delayed. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to reveal dependence no one had acknowledged. The conquered had believed humanity needed them. They were beginning to learn the reverse might also be true. High Arbiter's Thorin received the first economic projection 12 hours later. His luminescent skin dimmed slightly as he read it. Projected instability escalating. Trade collapse probability rising. Political unrest indicators active. He issued a simple command. Summon the human ambassador. The response arrived instantly. Human diplomatic personnel have departed conquered jurisdiction. For the first time in centuries, uncertainty touched the chamber. Humanity had not retaliated. They had stepped away, and the system built on their quiet cooperation was beginning to fracture. Then a deeper alert appeared. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures forming within Sol. Not weapons. Construction. Gigantic construction. Something humanity had hidden while pretending to be small. Thorin stared at the data longer than necessary, because a realization slowly formed. The humiliation had not weakened Earth. It had removed the last reason for restraint. And whatever humanity was building, the galaxy had just given them permission to finish it. The silence after humanity's withdrawal did not end. It expanded. Across the Galactic Council networks, billions of systems waited for the expected correction, the diplomatic recall, the apology transmission, the clarification that the Terrans had acted emotionally rather than strategically. None came. Instead, the human embassy on Nexus Station powered down its external beacons one by one. First, diplomatic channels, then cultural exchanges, then trade negotiations. Finally, the open band frequency that had broadcast human music continuously for 12 standard years went dark. The absence unsettled everyone more than anger ever could. Ambassador Relketh of the Varelian Combine stared at the empty human seating ring during the emergency session. The Terrans cannot simply disengage, he insisted, mandibles trembling. Interdependence protocols forbid unilateral withdrawal. They already have, replied Archivist Salyuan quietly. Their networks confirm total disengagement from Council infrastructure. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Humans had not protested. They had not threatened war. They had simply left, and the galaxy was beginning to realize how much depended on them. The first failure occurred 17 hours later. A freight convoy entering the Harkin corridor vanished. Not destroyed, not attacked, just lost. Navigation systems across 3 sectors began producing fractional errors, tiny deviations no species initially noticed. Ships arrived minutes late, then hours, then days off course. The Council's predictive navigation lattice, considered flawless for centuries, began collapsing under accumulating inaccuracies. Engineers searched desperately for the cause. Finally, a junior analyst discovered the truth. Correction algorithms missing, she whispered. The system logs showed entire optimization layers gone. Human-written layers. No, one had realized Terran mathematicians maintained 72% of the Council's navigational corrections. Their code had quietly compensated for gravitational anomalies other species considered unsolvable. Without it, space itself seemed hostile again. Panic spread slowly the way intelligent civilizations panic. Through reports, through statistics, through denial. Trade efficiency dropped 12% within 2 cycles. Then, 28. Then entire supply chains froze. The agricultural worlds of the inner spiral reported fertilizer shortages. Medical stations lost predictive outbreak modeling. Even translation networks began producing subtle misunderstandings between species. Words shifted meanings. Treaties required reinterpretation. Diplomats argued over phrases that had been stable for decades. The humans, it turned out, had maintained linguistic harmonization protocols, constantly updating semantic bridges between cultures. They had never mentioned it. They had simply done it. Counselor Threx slammed a claw against the crystalline table. This is sabotage. Archivist Soluin shook her head. No, she said softly. Sabotage requires destruction. The humans removed only what belonged to them. But civilization is destabilizing. Yes, she replied, because we built stability atop contributions we never acknowledged. The chamber fell quiet. For the first time, many delegates replayed the final human speech, not as defiance, but as warning. Far beyond council territory in the Sol system, humanity moved with calm precision. Orbital shipyards rotated at full capacity. Cargo fleets rerouted inward. Defense platforms activated long-dormant protocols. Yet Earth itself remained peaceful, oceans calm, cities illuminated, civilian broadcasts unchanged. To humans, this was not preparation for war. It was preparation for independence. Admiral Hannah Okoye watched the galactic data feeds from Lunar Command. Status: Council infrastructure degradation accelerating, an officer reported. They're requesting technical consultation through back channels. She allowed herself a faint smile. Any official apology? No, Admiral. Then we continue Phase 2. Outside the viewport, hundreds of vessels aligned silently, exploration craft, not warships. Humanity wasn't mobilizing to fight the galaxy. Humanity was preparing to outgrow it. Back on Nexus Station, something unprecedented happened. A delegation request arrived, not from one species, not from an alliance, from 47 civilizations simultaneously. The message was simple, requesting dialogue with humanity. Terms negotiable, acknowledgement of prior inequities authorized. Ambassador Relketh read the transmission twice before speaking. They're admitting fault, he said quietly. Archivist Soluin tilted her head. No, she corrected. They are admitting dependence. The distinction terrified him, because dependence meant vulnerability. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, the Council needed humanity more than humanity needed the Council. 3 hours later, the dark human embassy lit up again. One light, one signal, one transmission channel reopening. Hope surged across Nexus Station. But when the reply finally arrived, it was not from an ambassador. It was from Earth itself. A calm human voice spoke across every council frequency. Humanity is willing to talk. A pause followed, deliberate, measured. But this time we meet as equals. The transmission ended. And across the galaxy, billions realized something they had never considered before. Humans had never been the newest species in the Council. They had been its foundation. And foundations, once removed, decide whether to return. Far beyond mapped space, human exploration fleets crossed a boundary no Council probe had survived. Unknown stars ignited ahead. New routes, new alliances waiting to be discovered. Humanity was no longer asking for a place in the galaxy. Humanity was beginning to build a new one. And the old galaxy had just realized it might have to earn its way back in. The Council had faced wars before. Empires had risen, species had vanished, stars themselves had died. But uncertainty, true uncertainty, was something the Galactic Council had not experienced in nearly 1,000 cycles. Because uncertainty required losing control. And humanity had taken control with them when they left. The reopened human channel remained active for exactly 6 minutes every standard cycle. No more, no less. It accepted incoming diplomatic packets, but rejected priority flags, emergency overrides, and council authority codes. Humans had rewritten the rules of communication with a single restriction. Everyone waited their turn. For many elder civilizations, the concept felt insulting. For younger species, it felt fair. Council Chamber 7 overflowed with delegates. Arguments erupted across translation fields. "They are manipulating us," hissed Representative Kavran. "They are setting boundaries," countered Ambassador Relketh. "There is a difference. They depend on our markets." Archivist Salyuan activated a projection. Trade analytics filled the chamber. Council economies declining. Human economy stabilizing, then growing. Gasps spread through the delegates. "How?" someone whispered. Salyuan enlarged the data. Humanity had redirected trade inward, but not toward isolation, toward automation, toward manufacturing networks powered by AI systems the Council had once deemed inefficient because they prioritized resilience over profit. Humans had prepared for independence long before anyone noticed. Elsewhere, consequences intensified. The medical moon of Velisir reported vaccine prediction failures. Without human epidemiological modeling, disease mutations outpaced containment strategies. Shipping guilds struggled to map safe hyperspace routes. Insurance collectives collapsed within days. Even entertainment networks suffered. Cross-species media licensing broke down without human cultural arbitration algorithms. The galaxy wasn't collapsing. It was unraveling at the seams humans had quietly stitched together. On Earth, however, life continued normally. Children attended school. Markets opened. Artists streamed live concerts across the solar net. Human broadcasts intentionally avoided triumphalism. No victory speeches. No declarations of superiority. Only one repeating message from planetary leadership. We are building responsibly. Admiral Hannah Okoye understood why. Humanity wasn't punishing the Council. They were demonstrating something far more powerful. They could thrive without recognition. At Lunar Command, a new report arrived. Exploration Fleet Aurora has crossed boundary marker 1. The holographic display shifted, revealing unfamiliar stellar structures, gravitational patterns never catalogued by Council science. "Any resistance?" Okoye asked. "None. Autonomous probes confirm stable hyperspace corridors." A junior officer hesitated. "Admiral, these routes are safer than Council space." Okoye nodded slowly. Of course they were. Humans had stopped optimizing for speed years ago. They optimized for survival. Back on Nexus Station, the joint delegation prepared its official message to Earth. 47 species had argued for 12 continuous hours over wording. Every phrase mattered. Finally, consensus formed. Ambassador Relketh pressed transmit. "We acknowledge," he read carefully, "that humanity's contributions were undervalued and structurally relied upon without equitable authority." Silence filled the chamber. For ancient powers and used to apology, the words felt heavier than surrender. The message transmitted. The chamber waited. 1 minute. 3 minutes. 5. Then, the human channel activated ahead of schedule. A new voice answered, older, calm, unmistakably human. "This is Secretary General Elena Marquez of Earth." Delegates leaned forward. "We have received your statement," she continued. "Dialogue will proceed." Relief spread instantly, until she added, "But understand this clearly." Her tone hardened slightly. "Humanity is not returning to the Council as it was." The chamber stilled. "We are proposing something different." A holographic file transferred. Council analysts opened it simultaneously and froze. The proposal was not reform. It was reconstruction. Shared governance based on contribution transparency. Distributed infrastructure ownership. Open technological accountability. No species permitted silent dependence on another. Power balanced through measurable cooperation rather than political seniority. It dismantled centuries of hierarchy in 27 pages. Counselor Threx whispered, horrified. This would end the old order. Archivist Salyuan's eyes brightened. "Yes," she said softly. "That is why it might survive." Across the galaxy, reactions erupted. Younger civilizations celebrated. Trade collectives demanded adoption. Ancient empires hesitated, calculating losses of privilege. But One realization united them all. Humanity had not withdrawn to escape responsibility. They had stepped away to redesign civilization itself. Beyond explored space, exploration fleet Aurora detected its first signal. Not artificial, not natural, structured, intentional. Captain Reyes stared at the waveform. Unknown intelligence? Possibly, replied the ship AI. The signal repeated, mathematical, elegant, curious rather than hostile. Reyes smiled faintly. Looks like we're not the only ones who noticed the galaxy changing. He ordered a response transmission. For the first time, humanity spoke into a region untouched by the Galactic Council. Not as newcomers, not as petitioners, but as representatives of a species finally defining its own future. And somewhere far behind them, an entire galaxy waited to see whether humanity would become its partner or its replacement. The signal did not repeat immediately. That alone unsettled Captain Reyes. Most intelligent transmissions followed predictable intervals, mathematical greetings, recursive patterns, or escalating attempts at communication. This one waited, as if observing, as if thinking. Exploration fleet Aurora drifted at the edge of mapped reality, engines humming softly against the darkness between stars. Outside the viewing canopy stretched a region no council probe had ever entered, a lattice of faint gravitational currents forming natural hyperspace corridors, safer than known space. Older somehow, Lieutenant Mara Chun monitored the waveform again. It's adapting, she said quietly. Reyes turned. Explain. The intervals between pulses are matching our internal network traffic latency. The bridge went silent. The signal wasn't just communicating. It was learning how humans communicated. Back in council space, panic spread faster than information. The human reconstruction proposal fractured alliances overnight. Ancient hegemonies saw extinction of influence. Emerging species saw liberation. Trade blocks split. Defense pacts stalled. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Council lacked consensus on anything. High Arbiters Thorin watched debates collapse into shouting. They are destabilizing civilization. One elder delegate accused. Archivist Salyuan disagreed calmly. No, she said. Civilization was already unstable. Humanity merely removed the illusion of balance. And deep down, many knew she was right. The Council had depended on human systems because they worked, not because humans were powerful enough to demand recognition. Now that power imbalance stood exposed. On Earth, Secretary General Elena Marquez addressed a closed planetary session. Projected around her were leaders from every human colony, Mars, Luna, Titan, orbital habitats, deep space stations. We expected resistance, she said. What we did not expect is acceleration. She gestured to incoming reports. 43 species had privately contacted Earth requesting bilateral cooperation outside Council oversight. Not rebellion, realignment. Humanity had become the center of a new gravitational pull, political, economic, and technological. Admiral Okoye folded her arms. They trust us. Marquez nodded once, which means we cannot become what the Council was. That sentence carried more weight than any declaration of victory. Far beyond, aboard Aurora, the unknown signal finally changed. A three-dimensional projection formed above the bridge. Not an image, a structure. Geometry folding into itself, impossible angles stabilizing only when observed directly. The AI hesitated before translating. Semantic approximation available. Play it, Reyes ordered. Sound filled the bridge. Not language. Emotion converted into tone. Curiosity. Caution. Recognition. Then words formed through adaptive translation. You are new, yet familiar. Every officer froze. Reyes leaned forward. This is Captain Daniel Reyes of humanity. We greet you peacefully. A pause followed, longer this time. Stars outside seemed to dim as sensors registered massive energy fluctuations beyond detection range. Then the response came. You altered the pattern behind you. Chin whispered, It's talking about the galaxy. Reyes felt a chill. What pattern? The answer arrived instantly. Hierarchy decay, cooperative emergence, statistical improbability corrected. The alien intelligence had been watching Council space. For how long? No one dared guess. Back on Nexus Station, emergency alerts erupted. Long-range sensors detected gravitational anomalies at the galactic frontier near humanity's exploration vector. Council military analysts panicked. Unknown energy signatures. Scale. The technicians swallowed. Comparable to pre-collapse stellar engineering events. The chamber fell silent. Something ancient and powerful had noticed humanity leaving known space. Thorin turned toward the human diplomatic channel. Open communication with Earth immediately. The response arrived seconds later. Secretary General Marquez appeared calmly. "We're already aware," she said before he could speak. "You detected it too?" Thorin asked. Marquez shook her head slightly. "No. Our exploration fleet reported first contact 12 minutes ago." Shock rippled through the chamber. Humans had made first contact beyond Council territory. Again, on Aurora, the projection shifted. New data flooded human systems, star maps extending millions of light-years beyond known charts. Safe corridors, energy-efficient routes, regions marked with symbols indicating danger or warning. The AI struggled to process it. This information exceeds Council archives by approximately 97%. Reyes exhaled slowly. "Why give this to us?" The answer came softer this time. "Because you changed direction." A pause. Then, others expanded to control. You expanded to survive together. Chin stared at Reyes. "It chose us." But the final statement carried weight far beyond curiosity. Preparation recommended. External pressure approaches your galaxy. The bridge lights dimmed as alarms triggered. Deep space sensors detected something massive moving along intergalactic vectors. Not one object, thousands. Reyes whispered the only question that mattered. "Friend or enemy?" The translation hesitated longer than before, then answered, undetermined. And across the galaxy, unaware civilizations argued politics, while humanity stood at the threshold of a warning older than the Council itself. Something was coming, and for the first time, humanity might not be the newest species in the stars. They might be the galaxy's first line of defense. The warning spread through human space in less than 3 minutes. Not through panic channels, not through media, but through the quiet priority network reserved for extinction-level events. Every admiral woke at once. Every defense AI shifted to predictive wartime modeling. And for the first time since humanity joined the stars, Earth activated Protocol Aegis. On Luna's orbital command ring, Admiral Okoye watched projections bloom across the war room. Red vectors streamed in from intergalactic space. Thousands of objects, all moving with terrifying coordination. Velocity estimates rewrote physics models every few seconds. "They're not ships," one analyst whispered. Okoye narrowed her eyes. "Then what are they?" The AI answered. "Unknown constructs exhibiting self-modifying mass signatures. Not fleets, not organisms. Something in between." Across the Galactic Council, confusion turned into fear. Long-range sensors confirmed the same approach Vector humanity had reported. Ancient empires scrambled defensive coalitions that had not mobilized in millennia. Species that once fought wars lasting centuries now begged for shared intelligence. High Arbiter's Thorin stood silent as data streamed past. Human predictions were accurate. Again, he opened a secure channel. Secretary General Marquez, he said carefully, "The Council requests strategic cooperation." A subtle change in wording. Not supervision. Not guidance. A request. Marquez's image appeared calmly. "We will cooperate," she said, "but not under hierarchical command." Thorin hesitated. The chamber watched. The old order balanced on a single decision. Agreed. Gasps rippled through delegates. For 12,000 years, the conquered had never negotiated as equals. Until now, on the exploration vessel Aurora, the ancient intelligence continued transmitting. New data revealed simulations of galaxies collapsing under waves of gray expansion, star systems dimming one by one. Lieutenant Chen stared in horror. They consume energy gradients, converting everything into uniform matter. Reyes understood instantly. Entropy weaponized. What are they called? He asked. The translation formed slowly. Your language approximates the silence. A chill ran through the bridge, because silence wasn't destruction. It was absence, total stillness, no life, no signal, no future. Earth Command assembled a unified briefing broadcast to every human colony. Marquez spoke plainly. We are facing an extragalactic phenomenon that eradicates complex civilizations. Estimated arrival, 18 months. No dramatics, no fear, just truth. She continued. The Council cannot stop this alone. Neither can humanity. Survival now depends on cooperation beyond anything attempted before. A pause. Then the most shocking announcement yet. Humanity will release all restricted technologies to allied species immediately. Admirals exchanged stunned looks that included quantum logistics networks, adaptive AI governance, and humanity's most guarded innovation, distributed autonomy, systems designed so no single authority could collapse civilization. The opposite of the Council's centralized control. Within hours, alien engineers began integrating human infrastructure. Trade lanes optimized instantly. Energy shortages vanished. Communication delays shrank from weeks to seconds. Civilizations long dependent on Council permission suddenly experienced independence. Hope spread faster than fear. And, quietly, species realized something profound. Humanity didn't rise by conquering. They rose by enabling others. But not everyone welcomed change. Deep within a hidden Council defense complex, extremist factions activated forbidden weapons. If hierarchy collapses, one elder declared, civilization collapses. They targeted humanity's relay network, the backbone of cooperation. A preemptive strike. Missiles vanished into hyperspace. Earth detected them immediately. Okoye watched trajectories update. Impact in 12 minutes. No time for diplomacy. No time for debate. She issued a single order. Activate Guardian Net. Across hundreds of systems, civilian infrastructure transformed. Freighters unfolded into defense grids. Mining drones reconfigured into interception swarms. Communications satellites synchronized into predictive shields. Human defense wasn't centralized fleets. It was society itself. The missiles never reached their targets. They dissolved harmlessly against coordinated counterfields. And the attacking faction realized too late. Humanity had built a civilization impossible to decapitate. On Aurora, the ancient intelligence transmitted one final message before going silent. Observation complete. Reyes frowned. You're leaving? A pause. Then, you have passed the threshold others failed. Chin whispered, what threshold? The answer arrived like prophecy. Unity without domination. The projection faded. But before disappearing entirely, one last data packet transferred. Strategic schematics. Massive defensive constructs positioned at galactic edges. Blueprints humanity alone could interpret fully. Preparation instructions. For war. 18 months until arrival. The galaxy finally stood together. But sensors revealed a terrifying update. The silence wasn't slowing. It was accelerating. And its trajectory had changed. Not toward the Council's strongest empires. Not toward ancient powers. But directly toward humanity's expanding frontier. As if it had noticed who altered the pattern first. Admiral Okoye looked at the projection and whispered, they're coming for us. And this time, humanity would not be humiliated before the galaxy. They would decide its fate. The galaxy expected humanity to run. History said they would. Every young civilization, when faced with an existential force, retreated inward, protected their homeworlds, preserved what they could, accepted survival instead of victory. Humanity did the opposite. They moved forward. 18 months became 17, then 16. Construction began across thousands of systems simultaneously. Not weapons, not fleets, something stranger. Alien observers watched in disbelief as human engineers dismantled entire asteroid belts, not to build armadas, but to construct vast lattice structures stretching between stars. Energy flowed through them like veins. Networks, not fortresses. Admiral Okoye explained it during the first Unified Command briefing. "We cannot outgun the silence," she said, "so we will outgrow it." Confused murmurs spread among alien commanders. She expanded the projection. The silence advanced by equalizing energy differences, erasing complexity, smoothing existence into perfect stillness. Humanity's solution? Increase complexity faster than it could erase it. Civilization as a living system. Growth as defense. Secretary General Marquez addressed the Galactic Council one final time before operational command transferred to the Joint Alliance. For 12,000 years, she said, power meant control, central authority, stability through hierarchy. She paused. That model survives peace. It does not survive extinction. Behind her appeared humanity's proposal, a decentralized galactic network linking every civilization's infrastructure, knowledge, and autonomy into a cooperative intelligence. Not ruled, connected. The Council hesitated only seconds. Then species after species voted yes. The conquered ended not with war, but with agreement. Treaties rewritten overnight. Old authority dissolved willingly. By dawn, every treaty that once limited humanity had turned to ash, and no one mourned them. The first contact with the silence occurred sooner than predicted. A frontier system went dark. No explosion, no distress call, just absence. Stars dimmed, signals vanished, reality flattened into uniform gray energy. The Alliance watched helplessly. Fear spread like wildfire. Was humanity wrong? Could growth truly stop entropy itself? Then the lattice activated. Across millions of kilometers, the structures ignited. Light surged between stars, forming patterns too complex for conventional physics to model. Energy didn't resist the silence. It redirected it, flowing around inhabited regions like water around stone. The silence slowed. For the first time in recorded cosmic history, it encountered resistance. On Earth, children watched the sky shimmer. Auroras formed across continents. Humans didn't cheer. They worked. Every citizen contributed computational power, creativity, decision-making input into the distributed network. Alien worlds followed. Billions of minds linked voluntarily. A civilization-scale consciousness emerged. Not a ruler, not an AI, but cooperation itself. And suddenly the silence reacted. It changed course again, concentrating its advance, targeting the network's origin. Earth, fleet commanders prepared for sacrifice. But Marquez refused evacuation. If Earth runs, she said quietly, the galaxy learns fear again. So humanity stayed, not as rulers, as anchors. The final encounter came silently. A gray wave approached the solar system, bending starlight as it erased complexity ahead of it. Sensors failed. Physics trembled. And then the network expanded. Every allied species poured energy, culture, memory, and innovation into the lattice simultaneously. Music from 1,000 worlds. Mathematics older than suns. Art, stories, dreams. Complexity beyond calculation. The silence met something it could not simplify. Variation without end. Change without hierarchy. Life refusing uniformity. For a long moment, reality itself seemed to hesitate. Then the gray wave fractured. Not destroyed. Divided. Redirected outward. Dispersing into intergalactic space. Retreating. The silence did not die. It learned. And it left. Days later, the ancient intelligence from Aurora transmitted one final message to the Alliance. Cycle broken. Reyes asked the question everyone wondered, why us? The reply came gently. Most civilizations seek dominance when strong. A pause. You saw connection. Transmission ended forever. Years passed, the Galactic Council transformed into a cooperative network of equals. No provisional members, no superior species. Humanity never claimed leadership, yet every civilization quietly followed their example. Because strength, the galaxy learned, was not conquest. It was choosing unity when revenge was easier. In the rebuilt Grand Assembly Chamber, a young alien delegate asked a question historians would record forever. Ambassador Vasquez, when humanity was humiliated here, why didn't you destroy us afterward? Alina smiled faintly. Because humiliation teaches faster than victory. She looked around the chamber, now filled with equals, and we wanted the galaxy to grow up with us. Outside, stars shone brighter than ever. Not ruled, not conquered, connected, and somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, the silence watched, waiting, learning, perhaps one day returning. But next time, it would face a galaxy that had learned humanity's greatest weapon. Not power, not fear, but the refusal to stand alone.